Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today's video is going to be kind of like a car market update video, but it's just going to be going over what's happened over the last couple of days because, well, there have been some changes. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below, and if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post these videos every single day. Let's get into it. The first big update pertains to lending institutions. So they've become a lot more strict over the last couple of weeks because the sales month of November is turning out to be a pretty rough month. So wholesale values have declined at a very, very rapid rate this month, more so than prior months. And so that is hurting lending institutions because it means that they are giving out loans on cars that are depreciating at a much higher rate than those cars are getting paid off. And it just doesn't work out when you have a situation where more and more people are having their cars repossessed. And so you have these lending institutions that have these big loans on cars that just aren't worth all that much. So what this is doing practically is it's making it a lot harder for people to get approved for car loans, and it's making it so that the car loans that they do get approved for are just not all that good. Interest rates haven't really increased all that much since the beginning of this month when we had that initial increase. But what's been happening is lending institutions have kind of tightened things up a little bit to where it's really hard to get like the best possible rate, where if you're in anything but an ideal situation, they're just going to give you a higher rate because they just want to try to mitigate any type of risk. So all you need to know as a buyer is, rates are about what they were at the beginning of the month, but it's a lot harder to get those rates because there's a lot more stipulations with these lenders. Now, the next big change that I'm noticing is the fact that retail values and wholesale values are starting to decline at an even more rapid rate, and this is pretty troubling. So what it appears is happening is we have this situation where everyone is now trying to sell. We've already had, about a 20% decline in the market, and everyone's seen that, and now people are like, okay, wait a second. That's already happened, and now the market's getting even worse. I got to get rid of my vehicle now before it's worth even less. And so there are vehicles just flooding the market in pretty much every single segment, and so pricing power is just not there. I have seen certain vehicles lose literally 5 to 10% in their wholesale value and their retail value in just a few days. Like, that is absolutely insane. Like, when I was talking about wholesale values declining at 1% per week, I was like, this is crazy. But now, like, seeing 5 to 10% in just a few days, it's like, yep, this is just what is happening. And so this might be quite possibly the worst possible time to sell your car. It might be a good time to potentially buy a car if you're a cash buyer because you can get around those crazy high interest rates. But yeah, because people don't have pricing power, they're freaking out. And so you're seeing these prices just decline every single day, and it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. Now, the next trend that is pretty interesting that I'm seeing unfold is the fact that dealers are losing their order banks. And what I mean by this is, over the last couple of years, most dealers had a substantial amount of customers that had orders in the system. And so these dealers had a bunch of guaranteed car deals because they knew as soon as that vehicle arrived, that customer was going to pick up that vehicle. Well, what's happening now is these vehicles that are coming in are not getting picked up. And then on top of that, there aren't new customers that are putting orders in. And so the order banks are just drying up. And this is causing a lot of pain for dealers because they're starting to stack up with inventory that they don't want, because a lot of these special orders are special for a reason, because they're vehicles that the dealer traditionally won't order because they either have too many options where it puts the vehicle into a price range which doesn't make sense for most buyers, or they just have weird options, or maybe they don't have enough options, right? There's always something that's quirky about a special order. And so when you have these special orders that are landing and people aren't picking up, that's going to cause issues. And then when you have people that then aren't going in and ordering more vehicles, that also causes issues because it makes the dealers look bad to the manufacturers because, well, their order take rate is bad. And on top of having a bad order take rate, they're not getting any new orders direct to the well, it's not direct to the manufacturer, but you guys know what I mean. So yeah, it's an interesting situation. And again, it's something else I'm gonna have to just kind of continue to dive into and see how it shakes out. But it is definitely helping with the whole inventory situation because now we have more inventory and, well, we have more weird inventory. And this actually perfectly leads into the next trend, which is the fact that dealers are starting to just get rid of a lot of the fees that they have on cars. Now, they're not advertising this and they're not doing this up front, But I've noticed with the negotiation of a lot of car deals that dealers are just willing to throw out the fees right away just so that people will sign and purchase that car that day. And so this is actually good for you as a consumer because you don't have to go through the, hours of back and forth to negotiate the car deal. It's like, hey, get rid of that junk fee. And then the dealer goes, oh, will you buy today? Yep. Okay. Yep. We'll get rid of it. Like it's actually become very, very straightforward and very simple. Now I understand there are going to be some dealers that are not going to be doing that. They're still going to, hold their ground, but all you need to know as a consumer is a lot more dealers are no longer holding their ground because they see the writing on the wall. They see where the car market's going. And so they are trying to be ahead of the curve and just, quote unquote, buy car deals right now so they can just keep things going. And this leads me into the next trend, and that is the fact that more and more demand is building up for inexpensive, reliable, fuel-efficient vehicles. And I'm starting to see this happen like in real time on dealer lots because expensive, not so fuel efficient vehicles are just sitting there and not selling. But anything that is relatively affordable and gets good fuel economy is sold out. It is pretty crazy. And I'm also seeing this affect my main review channel because whenever I go and review a luxury car or just something that, again, is not affordable or fuel efficient, it doesn't get the views that it was getting over the last couple of years. Whereas when I go and review something that is more affordable, that typically isn't going to get a lot of views on YouTube because it's not the most exciting, think like Toyota Corolla, for example, those vehicles are starting to get a lot more views on YouTube. And so I'm seeing this happen in real time on dealer lots where that inventory that is affordable, fuel efficient, reliable isn't really existing anymore. And then with my YouTube views, I'm getting more views on those cars as well. And so that just shows you the shift in buyer demand that we're seeing. Now, the next trend that might be self-evident at this point in the video, but I still want to talk about is the fact that dealers are just seeing less traffic overall, whether it be online leads or foot traffic. And this is actually quite surprising because, again, we've had an inventory shortage for the last couple of years. And so now that dealers finally have inventory, you think that more people would be looking at their website to see what they have and then going to their stores to see what they have in person. But it's not happening. People just aren't car shopping right now. Well, there are some people, but the traffic is a lot less. Again, this is something that is anecdotal, but I'm going to mention during the course of most of the pandemic, I would almost always run into customers on the lot. Even though we were, quote unquote, in a pandemic, there were always people that were looking at, the inventory that the dealers did have, or there were always customers at dealerships in the process of purchasing a car or ordering a car, right? Because again, it was hard to get cars back then. Whereas now, most of the time that I go into dealers, it's kind of like a ghost town. Like there typically aren't any customers on the lot unless it's like during peak hours and then maybe there's a few. And there's not really any car deals happening where people are going in and ordering vehicles. And so I'm, again, starting to see this in real time where there are just less customers. And as always, how can you use information to help you out as a buyer? When it comes to the used market, I would try to avoid it at this point because the used market is still in complete free fall with values. Dealers see it, everyone sees it at this point. And so if you purchase a used car right now, you're probably going to lose quite a bit of money in normal depreciation and then also the adjustment that we're seeing right now where the market is trying to find some sort of stable ground. And so seriously, unless it's like something that's super special that has its own niche market that is outside of the normal car market, I just would avoid it. Just be patient, wait, the prices are going down and we will find a bottom and you'll get a much better deal in the near future on a used car. Now, when it comes to new cars, I don't share the same opinion as used cars, and it's for a number of reasons. First off, for the 2022 sales year, we're tracking to sell only about 13 million new cars in the US market. That is down by like 4 million new cars compared to what the market is typically used to. Actually, almost 5 million when you look at some years. And so what that means for the new car market is we still have a supply-demand issue where there's not enough supply and there is slightly more demand. And yes, demand has been diminishing quite a bit with certain brands, but there are some brands that are still red hot and there is some product that is still red hot. And again, dealer inventories are more than they were during most of the pandemic, but there's still not as much inventory as what we saw prior to the pandemic. And so what I see most likely happening with the new car market is, yes, there are going to be some more incentives moving into the future, but at the same time, manufacturers aren't going to pull back on the MSRP increases. Like the MSRP increases that we have seen are here to stay at this point, and the MSRPs on cars are only going to continue to increase in the future. And so what you're really gonna have to do is just the math on your car deal. If you are financing a car, then yeah, right now might not be the best time to buy a new car because of how much you're gonna pay in interest compared to what you would have paid last year on that vehicle, and what you could potentially pay on the same vehicle in the future once interest rates come down. Again, if they come down, we don't know when that's going to happen or if that's going to happen. I mean, judging by what's happened in the past, it's pretty safe to assume that it will, but you never know, right? And so that could kind of put things in flux for you. But if you're a cash buyer, then what you need to understand is your money is going to continue to be worth less and less as time goes on, because like I said, manufacturers are not going to decrease these MSRPs. They're going to continue to increase as time goes on. That is the trend that I'm seeing, and that is what I'm hearing from manufacturers is they still feel like they have pricing power. So that's what's going to happen there. Hopefully this helps you guys out. And so with that being said, again, if you want to see more content just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post these videos every single day. I'll see you.